Hello and welcome. You're watching Mediki Speaking special segment, and I am Pragati Singh. Women's Day is approaching, but hardly are the days easy on any woman's mental health. Therefore, to discuss this, I have Yogita Chalbani, therapist from Morphic Minds. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Pragati. Thank you for having me.
What are the women? What are the women's? Sorry, what is happening? What affects women's mental health are most?
There are many factors that can affect a woman's mental health, including if we start from right from internal, how they are perceiving the situation to external things where mostly women have to juggle between too many things. If a woman is a homemaker, they have a lot on their plate, as well as working women who have to juggle between the home and work, which are the biggest contributors in, I would say, affecting their mental health. But if we have to pick the strongest one, I would say it is how they are perceiving the situation has the biggest influence on their mental health.
According to the National Institute of Mental Health, women who are ever experienced sexual violence in their lifetime were more likely to develop high blood pressure over several year follow-up period. What are the other physical distress are experienced due to several traumas, harassments, or assaults? What are must one do to get rid of these?
All right. So I would say interesting and correct survey that years of trauma, even years of abuse, does have an effect on physical as well as mental health. Talking about other symptoms of continuous exposure to trauma or trauma memories would be continuous anxiety, self-doubt. The women may start getting into a lot of self-doubt, lack in confidence, which eventually can affect her social relationships. So the impact is huge, even if that experience is of, let's say, once, or some people have continued exposure, but they continue to relive those memories. So the blood pressure thing that you are talking about comes from a lot of overthinking and continuous stress of reminding themselves of those situations. So one thing would be, too difficult to just say, get out of it. Obviously, that is a very unfortunate thing to go through. So what I would suggest is to process the trauma with a trained professional rather than keeping it to yourself. Things are changing these days. When a woman talks about her abuse, nowadays it is not taken lightly. There are many help available, many platforms, right from NGO to professionals helping a woman out. So one very important step that a woman has to take is process that trauma. Do not think that because it has happened in the past, it won't affect the present or the future. So get the nearest help, talk to someone, and do not let your life be defined by that trauma.
Yeah. Now, studies have suggested that women experience PTSD, that is post-traumatic stress disorder, more than men, and wait much longer to seek help. Why is it so?
I would say the roots could lie where, a woman is always told to tolerate,
Yeah.
and excessive tolerance is also not very helpful. So when a woman goes through trauma, people kind of expect a woman to get out of it on her own, whereas probably a man or anyone else would be more active because they are not used to that kind of trauma, but a woman gets a different message. One reason, I won't say the only reason, but one of the reason is that. So that's why they think that it's their fault if they are in that situation, and hence they do not think of seeking help, but continuing to stay in that, the PTSD state, which is obviously not very helpful.
Hmm. And with the advent of technology, our lives are largely at ease. But
Hmm.
everything has its own repercussions. So this technology also. Stalking is one of advent torment that, although is endless of gender, but is more frequently experienced by women, and therefore we have movies like Hacked, what mental effect can stalking leave on on the victim, and is the psychological, like what do these victims use to like feel, matlab how do they cope up with this, like when some people get hacked, some people are being stalked, and some people are being eve teased also for that matter. So how to cope up with
Mhm.
that?
Okay, two parts to this. Once you said what are the psychological problems they face and how they can cope up with this stalking or basically cyberbullying. Okay,
Yes.
so when it comes to cyberbullying, a woman has to basically cyberbullying. Anyone can be a part of it, but because we are only targeting or talking about women today, so with women, the psychological problems that they can face is a continuous anxiety is very common, where everything, because most of the time they are told whatever happens that you must have done something, why did you keep your profile public, or you should have done any better, you should have thought better. So these continuous messages tell a woman that she cannot choose the way how she wants to maintain her profile, whom she can interact with. So people do not talk about the one who is bullying but continues to tell women to be more responsible. I would disagree that we don't have to be more responsible, but that doesn't deny or that does not neglect the fact that there is a bully who is not taking the consideration or consent of a woman
Yeah.
to talk to her.
Right.
So understanding, respecting boundaries. Many people, many women who have this anxiety of setting boundaries or saying no to people to the prey of these so stalkers or bullies and stuff. So psychological impact again would impact their self confidence. They may choose to shut themselves down completely, feel depressed, continue to blame themselves. And the ways that a woman can deal with those things is, first of all, understanding these cyber dynamics, setting boundaries, some of the basic rules for cyber precautions, we can say, where they should be cautious for adding strangers. I know they think that why are we getting this liberty, but sadly it happens that women are targeted more for these things. So we can just go after preventing these things, where we set boundaries, make sure that we do not share personal information. And if at all a woman is stalked or a woman is bullied, generally they take it to themselves, and they think that now their entire life is ruined. One event cannot ruin their life. If anything has happened, we are talking about multiple things, multiple events here. So any one undesirable event cannot define anyone's life. Same goes for women. So she should look beyond that event. She should not just limit herself to that event. At the same time, she should not limit her socializing, be it through internet or interpersonal physically. She should not limit that, but be aware, be mindful of her behaviors.
Yes. Basically, when someone is going through something like this, they wake up with anxiety, they go to bed with anxiety, they are living with anxiety the entire day. Matlab, they can't eat properly, they can't sleep properly, and these things really take a toll on their mental health, and it affects the entire like lifestyle of a person. Like they can't use their phone freely, they can't search anything, they can't use any app or anything for that matter, and this really takes like a it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy, and yes, it affects someone's life like completely. How to deal with that when some like a fear which is inbuilt, even if a person cope up with that, they face that fear is even after coping up, like they think maybe that will happen with them again or something like that. What to do in that scenario?
See, I would say that we need to be first, we need to understand if these symptoms are turning into clinical symptoms. We can say a concern or a healthy anxiety is there with all of us, where
Yeah.
it should be there. We take care of ourselves, our accounts, its privacy and stuff. But if something unfortunate has happened, and the symptoms that you are talking about looks like unhealthy anxiety, where a woman is limiting her entire life because of that event,
Yeah.
here a view is formed generally that disturbs this entire thing, that the world is an unsafe and bad place.
Yeah.
Now, this in therapy we called as an overgeneralization, where you think the world is a bad place because this negative incidence has happened. Okay, so if you look at the other aspects of the world, being safe, where you have gone out and you were safe, and there have been instances where you have trusted people and it has turned out to be good. So look at all the evidences rather than concluding just one thing, that the world is an unsafe or a bad place. World has a mixture of all these events. I'm not saying we cannot overlook these things, but just do not focus on that area. World is a pretty safe place, I would say, but these unfortunate incidences happen. Do not let it judge or cloud your judgment of about the world. If the symptoms are too bad, where the sleep is affected, the appetite is affected, and the activities are limited, I would again say seeking a professional help, because these one or two statements can be good as a suggestion to follow, but it's not a therapy in itself. So if it becomes too much, definitely seek a professional help.
Yes, ma'am. And my last question is, eve teasing is also something that adds to the plight of girl and women, leading to loss of confidence, restrictions, fear, and the list goes on. How does a girl deal with this? And what are the ways she can empower herself for the same against this act?
Eve teasing is, I would say, an unfortunate reality. Shouldn't be there, but many girls, or rather, safe to say, all the girls have gone through that process. Number one, do not blame yourself for being Eve teased. Okay, so again, like I said, because generally it is said that why did you go out at this time? Why were you wearing this? You cannot blame yourself for being Eve teased, because obviously it is not your fault. But then like you said, what measures she can take is obviously not being alone is safe, and having some, I would say, self defense skills will come handy. But this you will be able to use when you are not too anxious. If you are very anxious, you won't be able to use the skills that you already have. So manage your anxiety, tell yourself that you have the skills, so whatever unfortunate might happen, you would not want it to happen, but that should not stop you from taking care of yourself. So self defense is something that every woman should know in today's time, and should not fear from using the techniques if ever unfortunately they come across such instances. Taking help from the public, or just without hesitation shouting for help, or asking a stranger for help. So these things, now psychological factors that interfere a lot is anxiety. What will people think if I shout? But that is not a moment where you should be thinking about what will people think if I shout.
Yeah.
Okay, so work on your shyness, work on your anxiety, because such incidences call for some loud gestures, loud action for help from your end. So if you are too restricted, too much into thinking about others judgment, you won't be able to use these skills. So psychologically, work on your shyness, work on your anxiety. A lot of practical steps that can be taken should be taken. So do not go on demanding that the world should be a safe place. Why should I have to learn this? Accept the reality that it is not a good reality, but a reality that eve teasing, stalking, abuse happens. So what can I do to keep myself safe? So that will help you more to be prepared rather than demanding for an ideal world.
Yeah, because at the end, empowering ourselves is our job. So thank you for this special segment for all our ladies out there. For now, I would like to thank you for your time, ma'am, and thank you viewers to join us on this special day. Do visit our website medicallyspeaking.in and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you for watching.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.